Alrighty. Thank you all for your continued cooperation, and as we joined here with Chief Marcus Jones, Chief Soroka, Greg Wims with the Upper County Reach Center, and Patrick Campbell from Health and Human Services. We're here to provide you an update since 2 o'clock. No significant changes since 2 o'clock. Okay? No significant changes since 2 o'clock. The operations on the scene, as you may have observed, have changed significantly. The gas had been shut off. The smoke production has reduced in the building at the explosion site, but there will still be smoldering fire and smoke conditions in that building for quite a period of time. The apparatus is moving away from the front of the building so that a crane can be brought in and set in front of the building along the front of 826 and 828. A lot of other resources have been brought to the scene, lights, porta potties, fencing, to enable the operations to support it here at night and to continue. The operations here tonight will be limited to an overwatch. That is our term, that we're watching the building, making sure that the smoldering fire does not grow and that the circumstance stays in a very stale and contained state. There will be security provided by the Gaithersburg City Police Department for the entire complex and the area of those 4 buildings that are impacted. Again, those 4 buildings remain evacuated. As you saw the ride-on buses here earlier, the residents have left the area here, and Board Park, the shelter, is open, and the residents are at Board Park. Again, 4 buildings, 24 units are being removed, or excuse me, they're impacted by the services of these utilities. The operations here remain as we get back to assisting the residents in Building 24 and the residents in Building 30 get their belongings. So the residents of 24 and the residents of 30 with fire department personnel are getting key belongings out of the building to assist them in their relocation to shelters, hotels, or relocating with friends and family. Patience. Nothing has changed on the number of people that were transported. I do not have an update on the criticality or this medical condition of those that were transported earlier in critical condition. Hope to have that at our next time. Conclusions. Investigative activities. Please understand this is practically only 6 hours to 7 hours into this event. It is too early to make conclusions, too early to make information about what caused this, what contributed to this, and what is what caused this, what contributed to this, and how this occurred. Very skilled team of folks from county agencies, federal agencies, and the city are here working together. Pass on questions from last time. One of the questions last time was, what interactions, what communications has the property management had with prior gas concerns in this structure? We have talked with property management. There is no reported work by them or no issues addressed by them in these buildings, and I refer to the 4 buildings that I've used before, in the last 2 weeks. I'm repeating, no gas concerns, no work responded to by property management in these 4 buildings in the last 2 weeks. Let me go back to my event on September 22nd that fire rescue was at, and I told you we were looking at that report and getting more information on that. September 22nd, fire rescue responded for a gas leak in one of the apartments in 826. Indeed, we found a leak at an appliance in the apartment. That leak was isolated. When I use the word isolated, that means we turned the gas off to the appliance, the leak was stopped, the circumstance was stabilized, and the hazard is removed. The fire department did not call Washington Gas on that incident because it was a problem with the appliance. Homeowner, occupant was advised to address it with an appliance vendor or associated contractor, but Washington Gas was not called by fire rescue on September 22nd in that event. Additionally, prior question was asked about tenant and building concerns. Okay? If a tenant in this complex or throughout the city of Gaithersburg has building or condominium safety concerns, they should contact City of Gaithersburg Permitting and Inspections Division Chief Robert Perkey. That's P-U-R-K-E-Y. His telephone number is 240-805-1075. 240-805-1075. And that is Robert.Perkey, P-U-R-K-E-Y, at GaithersburgMD.gov. Okay? That is what is available for the folks from City of Gaithersburg. If you're a county resident, contact 311, contact Housing and Community Affairs for concerns of similar nature. If you have a concern about gas leaking in your apartment, any of the residents throughout the county and throughout the region have a concern, first, get out of the building. Second, call 911. Third, stay out until emergency personnel arrive on scene. I want to repeat the message that I said at 2 o'clock about this complex. All of the buildings in the 7 and 800 block even, that's the backs behind me on this side of on that side of the street, all of those buildings had fire rescue personnel walk through the buildings and check for any common areas of the building, gas leak or gas concerns. And again, there were no concerns in the 7 or 800 block of Quince Orchard Boulevard. People coming back to this community tonight, please feel comfortable in your units. If you have any concerns when you get in your unit or get to your building about a smell of gas or concerns, call 911. We'll come out and assist you once you're at your building and you have that concern. I pause for a second for my team for any other information, and then I'll open up for questions. And bear with me, I'll get you. Again, the shelter information, the Health and Human Services, the Montgomery Housing Coalition, all of that remains the same as provided earlier by Patrick. And if you need that, please touch base with him offline. For anybody who wishes a Spanish version of this press conference, fire and police media specialists are available, and we can provide that after the main body of this is over. I'm going to start over here.
Hi, Chief. You talked about there were no smoke inhalation or burn injuries. May be difficult, but can you speak to what type of injuries your medics did see?
I don't have that information, Bruce.
Chief, for the September 26th incident, what building number was that again?
It was in building 826. Thank you. Right behind Bruce.
Do you have any update on the one unaccounted for person from 2 o'clock?
No so the question is any update on the accountability of the occupants in 826? No. That still remains an open issue. Still remains one unit unaccounted for in building 826.
Can you say how many occupants
I-
and what floor that unit's on?
Stephanie's question is can I say how many occupants were in that unit and what unit or what floor that is? Occupants? No, I cannot. It is in the building, Stephanie, and I don't have the information right now as to what unit that is in building in 826.
You've said this already, but no searching tonight, right? You're just watching and guarding. Why?
So, there were K-9 teams here earlier, as you saw, as we did with our previous incidents. That's both live find K-9 teams as well as human remains K-9 teams. I do not believe there was any indications from them. That's a very different circumstance than we had at Littonsville. Again, this building is extremely unstable. That is why you saw the heavy equipment arrive, and the darkness exponentially makes the safety issues much, much greater. That's why our crews are prepared to deal with any flare-ups of the fire tonight, and then return in the morning with a detailed plan as to how to address the building, how to shore the building, and how to address the safety concerns. Darcy?
Yes, do you have any sort of timeline on when you may be able to go into that area to check on those occupants, or any kind of timeline on the cause of this explosion? Are we looking at weeks, months, or do you think relatively soon we might know more?
First question was timeline of getting into the building. Second question, timeline of origin and cause. Timeline of getting into the building is going to be several days. It may be accomplished, after a full day of shoring, a full day of stability, but it may be more than one day to get that building somewhat stabilized so we can get into that. That's just based upon what I've seen, what I've talked with the engineer, and experience. So that could be a variable, could be all day Thursday tomorrow, stabilizing the building before we start to be able to get into the building on Friday. Wouldn't be surprised at all also if that became more complicated to stabilize and make the building safe. The second part of your question, timeline for an origin, a cause, a how, a why, and where, too early, nowhere for me to be able to provide that information at this time.
Chief,
Chief, one other thing. We do have some citizen video that appears to show an active excavation near the location. I know you probably haven't seen that. I wonder if you know anything about the excavation or what it was about, if it could be related. And secondly, could you please characterize and describe Washington Gas's role here tonight?
Sure. So at 2 o'clock, I touched base about that work on the rear of the building. The work on the rear of the building was an excavation in the parking lot about 20 feet away from the curb, which put it about 40 to 50 feet away from the back of the building where the explosion occurred. That was being done by a contractor on water/steam pipes. That was an early interview that we completed with those folks because they were witnesses to the explosion. But that was water and steam. As I said earlier, there is no information at this time that places that relational to this incident. Was that all?
Washington Gas's role here tonight. Can you describe their presence and what they're doing?
Thank you. Washington Gas, as you saw, took the effort and had to isolate the gas at the street in the grass so they could shut off the gas to those affected buildings. One of the questions you all asked earlier was, what is gas operated in these buildings? There are gas cooktops in each unit, and there is a gas dryer in the shared laundry space of each building. So there's a gas stove cooktop oven in each of the apartments, and there is a gas dryer or dryers in the common laundry room in the lower level portion of each building. So that's what the gas is. They isolated the gas to those buildings and then enabled us, in conjunction with property management, to turn the gas back on to the rest of the complex. Okay?
oh, Chief, I just, on the same note, is the one unit that remains outstanding the same unit that generated the 911 call on the 22nd? And can you say if that 911 call was related to a stove in a unit or a dryer in a common space in building 826?
I don't have the information as to what unit it remains unaccounted for. So without that information, I can't attest to the association to the September 22nd event. The September 22nd event was in one of the terrace apartments, and it was with the appliance. And with the appliance in the apartment only being the stove, it was the stove problem. So I don't have the ability to tie today's unaccounted for to that terrace apartment. That may be information that we can get together and have for a later activity.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
I can only see a little hand. So.
Okay, Cheyenne from DC News now. Now you said residents from 824 and 830 are going to be able to get back into their apartments and kind of gather some key belongings. What time do you see that happening, and how are you going to
So the residents, the statement was the residents of 824 and 30 were being allowed, or more specifically, firefighters were going into their units to get key belongings for them. That already occurred. That was in process and was being performed in the 4 o'clock hour, if not currently right now. And that is the goal, is to let those folks have their key belongings before they decide to leave for the shelter or leave for other accommodations.
Chief, sorry, can you just clarify, did the dogs not hit anything, or were
I
the
have
dogs
no
not
information.
able to get
I
close
have,
enough?
I don't know
Okay.
what the dogs provide. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to clarify that answer. Did the dogs not hit anything, or the dogs weren't able to get close enough to determine because of structural issues with the building?
I don't have the information as to what their results were. Okay, if I said something differently, I'm sorry, but I don't know what their results were. Sorry. Darcy, I understand what you said. I'm trying.
Okay.
I should have been using my pad in front of me. We had no hits from the canines on this event, which is different than our Littonsville experience in 7 months ago. So correct, the dogs had no indications on this event. Sorry.
Those are dogs that detect human remains and live folks.
Different dog physically, but one of each.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. All right.
Chief, do you mind just going through the night operations one more time? What we can expect to see from now going into the evening to early tomorrow morning?
So, night operations. Large equipment is coming in. A crane will be placed in the parking lot in front of 826 to assist and be pivotal in the operations tomorrow morning. The fencing will be going up around the structure. Part of this driveway in front of 826 feeds the back half of those buildings and basically puts a barrier for those occupants getting their vehicles out and or having a drive path out of the building. In conjunction with City Public Works, a ramp and an alternative path has been produced for those folks to get their vehicles out. Almost all of them have driven out the other way that was provided, and they're now able to get their vehicles out and access that. So the crane will be coming, the fence will be coming and being put up, light towers will be put up to illuminate the scene, and law enforcement will be on site providing security, and at least 3 pieces of fire apparatus will be here providing an overwatch for the building throughout the night. First thing in the morning, crews will be back and we'll be making a plan for the operations tomorrow. All right. Anything else?
Next briefing.
Exactly. 10:30 is the next briefing of information. There will be media folks. This fine young man will be here in the morning if you want, information from Pete, but full update, next set of information will be 10:30 here on site.
AM or PM?
Hello.
10:30 tomorrow in the morning on site. Anybody want to be back at 10:30 tonight? Oh, okay.
We'll be here.
10:30 in the morning on site.